Everyone makes fat loss 10 times more complicated than it really is. You don't need to cut out carbs and sugar, you don't need to do a bunch of cardio, and you don't need to follow any fad diets. Fat loss is about one thing and one thing only: eating in a calorie deficit every day until you lose the weight you want to lose. The secret to successful fat loss is finding a sustainable and enjoyable way to eat in a calorie deficit every day. Now, who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, my name is Rio and I'm the founder of Polarity Fitness, where we help busy people gain muscle, lose fat, and transform their bodies by working out 2 to 3 times per week with minimalist training and flexible dieting. I know what you're thinking. What does this guy know about being fat and losing weight? That's what I ask myself every time I watched a weight loss video from someone who appeared to be in shape his entire life. I'm not one of these fitness influencers who doesn't know what it's like to be fat. For most of my life, I was overweight. I tried so many different fad diets, cardio routines, and workout plans to try and lose fat, and most things never worked for me. Eventually, I cracked the code and found out what really works. And in this video, I'm gonna give you the simple and no bullshit guide to actually getting lean and staying lean for life. Now, as I said, fat loss is simply about eating in a calorie deficit every day. Weight loss requires you to consume fewer calories than your body burns daily. That's it. Now, with that said, there are 2 big obstacles in the way of eating in a calorie deficit every day, and these 2 obstacles are why you struggle to lose fat. When you overcome these obstacles, you will get lean fast and stay lean for life. These 2 obstacles are tracking and adherence. Tracking means, are you tracking your calories accurately and actually hitting the calorie target that you think you're hitting? Most people claim they're eating in a calorie deficit every day and still not losing any fat. The truth is, they're not eating in a calorie deficit, because if they were, they would be losing weight. This is a tracking problem. If they were to actually track their calories closely, they would realize they're eating way more than they thought they were. Adherence means, can you actually stick to your diet long enough to lose the amount of fat you need to lose? Most people stick to their diets for a month or less and then rebound because their diets are too restrictive, or they're on point with their diets from Monday to Friday and then fuck it all up on the weekend. If you master calorie tracking and adherence to your diet plan, you will never struggle to lose body fat again. So now let's separate these into 2 buckets and talk about how to master them. Let's start with adherence. So the first key to solving adherence is to eat in a small to moderate calorie deficit. One of the main reasons people screw up their diets is because they're eating in too big of a calorie deficit and they're always starving. If you're starving all the time, you're bound to fuck up your diet and binge eat. When it comes to fat loss, the long road is the fastest. By eating in a smaller calorie deficit, you'll be more consistent with your diet and avoid falling into a vicious cycle where you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. This is super important because fat loss has no mercy. You need to sustain a calorie deficit every single day. 1 day of binge eating can set you back 2 fucking weeks. It's much better to eat in a small calorie deficit and be able to stick with it than to eat in a huge calorie deficit and then binge eat every 2 weeks because you're starving. This is what makes fat loss hard. It's not complicated. The difficult thing is doing it every single day. It's more important to take fat loss slowly if you only have 10 to 20 pounds of fat to lose. If you have more than 20 pounds to lose, you can cut more aggressively without any negative side effects because you have more body fat reserves to tap into. If you only have 10 to 20 pounds of fat to lose, I recommend eating in a 300 to 400 calorie deficit per day. If you have more than 20 pounds of fat to lose, I recommend eating in a 500 to 600 calorie deficit per day. The next key to adherence is eating plenty of protein. So obviously, protein is crucial for building and maintaining muscle. We don't just want to lose a bunch of weight. We want to lose pure body fat while maintaining or building muscle. That's what creates an aesthetic physique. But when it comes to fat loss, protein is key for controlling your appetite. Protein is the most satiating of the macronutrients and it will keep you full on your diet plan. Optimal protein intake for muscle growth is 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, but if you have a huge appetite like me, you should eat 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Ultimately, the key to fat loss is controlling your hunger and ensuring that you stay full while eating in a calorie deficit. If you can go to bed feeling satisfied and full every day, fat loss will become the easiest thing ever. And one of the most important keys to doing that is eating plenty of protein. The next key to adherence is to eat plenty of nutritious whole foods. Whole foods are minimally processed, single ingredient foods. Examples include chicken, steak, eggs, fruits, vegetables, legumes, rice, etc. Eating healthy is important for your health, but don't get it twisted. Eating healthy guarantees nothing in the way of losing body fat. There are no foods that cause weight gain or weight loss. If you eat too much of the healthiest food, you'll gain weight. If you maintain a calorie deficit while eating junk food every day, you'll lose weight. Remember that fat loss is all about energy balance. How much you eat is way more important than what you eat when your goal is to lose fat. However, eating healthy food will keep you more full and satisfied in a calorie deficit because healthy foods are more dense in nutrition and you can eat a greater volume of them because they're lower in calories. So eating healthy food does have an indirect effect on fat loss. Now, this doesn't mean you can only eat healthy food. You can express some balance and also include some junk in your diet. The key is to follow an 80-20 rule. 80% of your daily calories should come from nutritious food and 20% can come from unhealthy foods. Allowing yourself some freedom to include dessert or whatever else you want to fit in can help with adherence and enjoyment of your diet. Cutting out your favorite foods is a recipe for failure because it's unsustainable. You need to enjoy your diet if you're going to stick with it. The next key to adherence is to get a balance of all the macronutrients. Beyond hitting your calorie and protein targets, get a balance of fats and carbs. You don't want to cut out any of the macronutrients when your goal is to get lean. Carbs and fats are crucial for controlling your satiety. They're also key for maintaining healthy testosterone levels, fueling your training performance, and getting proper rest and sleep. Finally, you need to follow a meal structure that suits you and your lifestyle. When you eat your food doesn't matter. Your meal timing and frequency aren't going to have any impact on your results. As long as you eat in a calorie deficit every day and get enough protein, you will lose fat. Whether you eat 10 meals or 2 meals won't make a difference. However, when it comes to fat loss, I found that eating light throughout the day and saving most of my calories for the evening is super helpful. If you don't have a huge appetite like me, then it probably doesn't matter. But if you do, then saving most of your calories for later in the day allows you to eat bigger and more satisfying meals, which allows you to go to bed feeling full. Now let's talk about tracking. So quick story, I was on a call with one of my clients not long ago and his goal was to lose weight. He's a pretty big guy and weighed around 270 pounds. On this call, he was telling me about how he was at a complete loss and didn't understand how he could possibly not be losing weight because he was eating 2,100 calories every day. Just to clarify, for a 270-pound man, 2,100 calories is ridiculously low. He thought he had to keep reducing his calories, but the issue wasn't the calorie target. In fact, he shouldn't be going that low in calories at his size. He could get away with eating way more. The real issue he had was that he wasn't tracking his calories properly. If he was actually hitting 2,100 calories every day, there's not a chance in hell he wouldn't be rapidly losing weight. And I see so many people falling into this trap. They think they need to keep reducing their calories, but what they really need to do is actually hit the calorie number that they say they're hitting. And if you track your calories accurately, you can get away with eating more than you ever thought possible. There are a few things I've learned that have been game changers when it comes to tracking calories accurately. For those of you who are new to this, calorie tracking means tracking the number of calories you consume daily, which involves 2 simple steps: measuring the food you eat with a food scale and recording that food in a calorie tracking app. By the way, my favorite calorie tracking app is MyFitnessPal. The key thing to understand is that you must measure and track everything that goes into your mouth every day. A bite here and a bite there and extra sauces and oils all add up. This is another reason why people don't lose weight. They're tracking, but they aren't tracking everything, and it quickly adds up, and before you know it, they're in a calorie surplus. You also want to make sure you're weighing your food with a food scale. Especially if you don't have any experience tracking calories, guessing and eyeballing your calories is not going to be accurate. You might think tracking calories is a psychological burden, and I used to feel the same way until I discovered uniform eating. The best way to make calorie tracking easy and accurate is to become a uniform eater. Uniform eating means limiting the variety of your diet and eating similarly each day. This means 2 things: eating the same handful of meals throughout the week and keeping your meals simple and limiting their variety. I can hear you saying, "Rio, variety is the spice of life." Variety is not the spice of life when it comes to food. Not in a society with too much of everything, everywhere, at all times. When you eat the same meals all the time and you keep them simple, tracking calories becomes easy. You become very familiar with your meals. You've had the same meals so many times that you know exactly how many calories they contain. When your days of eating are all similar, you don't need to track your calories as closely. If you keep the same meal structure and eat the same meals, you'll know how many calories you've consumed. This way, you don't have to constantly pull out your phone to track food in MyFitnessPal. You can follow a similar meal structure every day and know that you'll be in the ballpark of your calorie goal. Since I eat the same meals and follow the same eating structure every day, I only have to check MyFitnessPal once. I check it at the end of the day after I've eaten my first and second meals to see how many calories I've left to work with. This works because I know how many calories my meals contain. I don't have to pull out my phone after every meal to check. Next, when you have 100 different foods in your diet, there are too many variables to keep track of. It becomes too complicated. I'm not saying your meals have to be boring and tasteless. My meals are very enjoyable and I love them, but they have to be simple and easy for you to track unless you like spending hours each day measuring food. Compare a meal with 5 ingredients to one with 20 ingredients. How much easier is it going to be to track the meal with 5 ingredients? Much fucking easier. Not only is it easier, but your tracking will be much more accurate too. With too many different ingredients, your tracking is bound to be inaccurate. If your diet is simple, your tracking will be accurate and you don't need to be as meticulous with your calorie tracking. If your diet's very complicated, your tracking will be inaccurate and you need to track your calories closer. Uniform eating also helps with adherence. It makes your diet plan more sustainable because it's lifestyle friendly and eliminates decision fatigue and saves you a bunch of time. If your meals are different every day, you'll have decision fatigue because you have to constantly think about what you're going to eat. When you eat the same meals all the time, there is no decision fatigue. You always know exactly what you're going to eat and you don't have to think about it. Everything becomes automatic. Uniform eating also helps you eat less. Human beings overeat when given too much variety. You become full and satisfied way faster when you consume fewer foods, even if you eat as much of those fewer foods as you want. Every new food is basically a novel stimulus and a reset button for our appetite. We have an obesity problem because we have too many different choices, not because of sugar or carbs. To finish off, I'll give you a couple bonus tips to make fat loss quicker and easier. To accelerate fat loss, focus on walking 10,000 to 15,000 steps per day. Walking is the best form of exercise for fat loss because it burns calories without increasing your appetite and affecting your recovery. Avoid intensive cardio at all costs. It will spike your appetite and lead to more diet screw-ups. And a calorie deficit is an energy deficit. You need to save all your energy and resources for your weight training sessions if you want to maintain or build muscle on a cut. The next tip is only applicable if you're already relatively lean and you're trying to shed off the last layer of body fat to get down to a super low body fat percentage. And that tip is to embrace some hunger. You'll be hungry sometimes if you're trying to get very lean. Fucking deal with it. Yes, the tips I gave you will minimize this as much as possible and you shouldn't feel hungry every day. If you do, then you're either going too low in calories, eating too little protein, or not eating enough nutritious foods. But once in a while, you will feel resistance from your body and a bit of hunger. Your body is quite literally eating itself. It's not supposed to feel comfortable. If you're pushing past what your body's natural set point is, your body will try to fight against you. We're programmed to survive, not look good. Sometimes it's better to listen to your body. If you try to push through intense hunger, it can backfire and cause you to binge eat. You need to learn the difference between a little bit of hunger and your body actually needing food. Next, stay busy. If you're close to your fridge thinking about food all the time, good luck getting lean. When you're cutting, you should be 10 times more productive. This will keep your mind off of food. The best fat loss hack is to forget about food. If you're super focused on getting shit done, you'll forget about food and you'll drop body fat so fast it's not even fucking funny. Since you're not digesting as much food, you are naturally more focused when you're cutting. You enter a super focused state that's harder to achieve when you're bulking and always digesting food. Finally, ride the momentum wave. Fat loss is about momentum. When it comes to starting a diet, or any other habit for that matter, it's always hard at first. Fat loss is a lot like moving a stationary train. It takes a lot of energy to break it free from its stationary physics, but once it's put in motion, it accelerates with ease. One of the most powerful ways to guarantee fat loss success is to be very strict for the first month of your diet. Track your calories very closely, get enough protein, and get your walking in every single day. Once you overcome that initial adjustment period where you're hungry, fat loss becomes easy and fast, and you just need to ride the wave. By the way, I just launched the brand new Polarity Fitness community on Skool. We already have 40 members in the community and they're absolutely loving it. You get weekly Q&A calls with me, my 2-day per week minimalist training system, the nutrition blueprints for bulking and cutting, 30 plus exercise and workout tutorials, and tons of awesome meal plans and recipes. If you're interested, you can click the link in my description to check it out.